Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We welcome our listeners, our viewers on the various platforms of Salam Media this morning. This is a special broadcast coming to you live out of Durban. Now, the Salam Media team is in Durban. We were here last night and we attended the Minara Chamber of Commerce. Their awards evening and a highly successful evening, I must say. But we are here for another reason as well, and to talk to people that we have been talking to for a long time. It's going to be a lovely, informal discussion. It's going to be a very relaxed discussion. Is our listeners and our viewers can see, having coffee this morning, and in the presence of, on my right, I've got Dr. Faisal Suliman, and also on my left, we've got Mustafa Darsot. Now, the reason we are talking here is we're talking about contemporary issues, and we know for a long, long time, the Muslim community in South Africa has been faced with a whole host of issues on a social level, on a socio-economic level, on a societal level, on a political level, religious level. And we see this very often in many of the social media chat groups, the Muslim essay group, I know, which is quite a popular group. But a lot of discussion, a lot of disagreements, and there's nothing wrong with having different points of view. But where are we in terms of addressing these contemporary issues? Doc, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and thank you so much for having us.
Yes, wonderful. And Mustafa, Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam, Brother Inayet. Thank you for this. Actually, when I got the call from you, it was rather surprising. And Jazakallah for having us over. And yeah, looking forward to this discussion.
Well, I see we're having a lovely breeze here, leaf showers, leaves all over the show. We've got our coffee here. Doc, let's just talk about, generally we're talking about the Muslim community in South Africa. And things have evolved over a period of time. And I think even more so after the COVID era, there's just so much taking place within our community. And just looking at some of the challenges, the contemporary challenges. And I think we are challenged in more ways than one.
Inayet, you're right. Off the top of my head, if I had to think about it, I would say if we looked at the migration from India as a first phase, and then the next 100 years as a phase of bricks and mortar, setting up of businesses, setting up of masjids, religious structures, madrasas, darul ulum. We know, and of course, there are lots of places that still need madrasas, etc. But if I take that as a phase one or two of the Muslim community, both the Malay community by and large in the Cape, or the Cape Muslims from the time of Sheikh Yusuf, Tuan Guru, etc., and our grandparents or great-grandparents who migrated to Natal, and from Natal to Gauteng or Transvaal, etc., as a phase of establishing roots. Those roots are now firmly embedded, right? There's bricks and mortar structures. There's a fairly vibrant economic base from which we have a business base, educational base, professionals, captains of industry. We also have two phases now. We have the phase of immigration of Muslims from Africa and the subcontinent over the last 25 years, since 1994. But when you speak about so many of these challenges, maybe we need to think of another phase now, and that is of looking at, we've done the bricks and mortar, we've got the structures, and there's so much available on the internet in terms of education and learning from best practice everywhere else in the world. But clearly, when you see, and I mean this really not in a facetious or an insulting manner, but when I see the levels of discussion in our community about political strategy, about organizing ourselves, I must tell you, we're still at the grade 1 and grade 2 level. I'm not saying I'm any better. We are products of what's around us, but we, even in terms of and again, I mean this in the best of senses, even if we start with the religious structures, look at the stuff that's going around, what we're talking about, Christmas is, Diwali comes, the whole debate, can you say Happy Diwali? Then the Easter story will come, then the Christmas story will come, then Matric dance party will come. Now, I am not saying those are not in But is that where we stuck? When the world around us is changing, when the geopolitics is changing, our political structures in this country are changing. The Muslim community, from 5 cabinet ministers in Mandela's cabinet as Muslim, to now probably in the new election, we'll be lucky if we have 1 or 2 Muslim members of parliament. And why is that important? Because the centers of power don't listen to you from your WhatsApp groups. They don't listen to you from, the meetings you're having, social meetings in your weddings and functions and things like that. They listen to you when you organize, when you're present in the ANC conferences, when you're present in whether it's Mustafa's Action SA now or everywhere else. When you have a presence, we don't have an office in parliament as a Muslim community. It's not due to lack of finances. So I am saying that we have to now look at a phase. And Shafat, Freudian slip there. But if I look at even on contemporary issues, I have to say that if you want, lectures on issues LGBT, etc. Yes, there are 1 or 2 hours, and I'm glad to see proactive alims taking place. But often you have to look at the overseas scholars for real intellectual debate. Let me give you an example now. You see where Ahmad Didat started, Allah give him Jannah, right? In the 1970s, he was already producing DVDs and debating and producing, this whole comparative. He was like the doyen of comparative religion, right? But following that, if you want to know about Muslim-Christian relationships, whether it's books, whether it's not just debates about how many mistakes in the Bible and stuff like that, you have to look to overseas scholars. That scholarship is not emanating from South Africa. We have probably the most religious freedom of any Muslim community in the world.
I agree.
Barring perhaps Malaysia. We South Africans are absolutely free to practice our religions here.
But I think they look at one of the key issues is, and I'm sure Mustafa, you can comment on this as well, is we seem to be stuck in the past for a long time. And as Faisal alluded to, we've been here for a very, very long time. The bricks, the mortar, all of that, we've got the structures. We pride ourselves in the structures that we've built. Even from an educational perspective, and when one sees the growth of the Muslim schools as well. We've got 70, 80 Muslim schools right across the entire country. But together with all of that, we still seem to be stuck in the past. The face of the Muslim Ummah has actually changed in this country. We still seem to be stuck in the past, still the traditional Indian Muslims, traditional Malay Muslims, and at the same time, still holding on to certain values, but also at the same time, resisting or not adapting to a changing climate.
Yes, that is correct. Actually, we are stuck in this time warp, and being there as a Muslim community in the country for 350 years, which is of course from the Indonesian Malay region, a Malayan region, and then of course from the subcontinent being here for 160 years, we are stuck in this. Alhamdulillah, we've got lots of masajid, we've got lots of Islamic schools, we've got lots of madrasas, we've got lots of Darul Ulums, lots of humanitarian charitable organizations. But what else beyond that, right? Like Faisal spoke about Ahmad Didat. Who has they taken the baton from his kind of work, on that sort of, and comparative religion debating, because at the end of the day, yes, there are people, but Ahmad Didat was a type of guy, even him as an overpowering figure, when he was on stage, you knew that he was going to make it happen, right? Yeah, we got Dr. Zakir Naik, but he's far away. We're talking here in South Africa now, right? But and the thing is that not so much. Some people perceived it. Oh, it was Christian bashing. It wasn't Christian bashing. It was making you aware that this is what Christian missionaries are doing when they come knocking on your door, and they go for the most vulnerable, and that's how they bring them on board. And that's the way it was for making people aware. So who's been doing that? Nobody. Yes, we have a few, but again, then you come to the religious scholars of Deen, right? Right now, we have the biggest, if anything, it's the most sad state for a community, especially a community that prided itself to be established. Like, for example, in the 90s and early 2000s, it was heralded that the South African Muslim community, especially our ulama and institution, were world class. Others from overseas were looking at us Where are we now? Right? We've got the Jamaat that is split into two. One is Nizamuddin, one is Raifin. Then you've got the ulama split. You've now got the we had Uqsa, which was trying to put bring together ulama. Then you've got the Wifaq. Then you've got radicals, right? And the thing is that, and then there's name calling, there's slander. Then when you get a scholar from overseas of a person of a good religious persona, a person who is captivating, who obviously, like what Faisal said, when they talk contemporary issues, they know the facts, they have seen experience living in multicultural cosmos societies. We are told, don't listen to these foreign scholars. We've got enough talent here locally. That's where we are. We only nitpicking on petty issues when serious issues that are facing us. That's one of the reasons why I decided to enter the political sphere 21 months ago, because what Faisal said, in Mandela's time we had 5 Muslim cabinet ministers. Today we've got 1, Naledi Pandor, right? Okay, maybe 1 or 2 deputies, we're not sure, but we got 1. What happens going forward? We can see, if anything, okay, this is more on a racial line. Look at the KZN ANC. Whether it's eTequini or KZN ANC PC, not one person of color, in a sense, not one white, not one colored, not one Indian. Because we've been all absent, right? And that's what it is. Now you take, for example, what happens in America. Currently, we got Joe Biden in. Yes, Joe Biden, people say he's, at the end of the day, any Uncle Sam who's running the presidency office is bad news. Whether he's Democrat, whether he's Republican, right? But what happened was that the Muslims that joined the Democratic Party, the youngsters, professionals, etc., right? They now have, I mean, how many of them are employed by the White House? Just to give you an example, which you never saw before.
Definitely.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they say, oh, but they have to pander to policy. They must dance to the tune.
We look at the UK as well.
Right?
You look at the mayors and
Exactly, right? Where are we?
Exactly. I think, but now also, Faisal, I think, Mustafa says, where are we? And we need to try and unpack why. Because, is it just pure apathy? Is it a leadership problem? Where does the buck stop?
It's a combination, Inayet. The one I think, we are not is an activist community. I think Muslims in the Cape were, to some extent still are, were more of an activist-minded community. I think with the demise of apartheid, sadly, the vast majority of Indian Muslims in Gauteng and in Cape, for that matter, during the apartheid days, were apolitical. We had the stalwarts that we all want to refer to. Alhamdulillah, they in fact, sadly, in many cases, they had to join the SACP because they found no traction within the organized Muslim structures to actually say, right, here's, MYM, Qibla, Call of Islam. And those were by mainstream Indian Muslims who ostracized. It's a sad, we can't ignore the history. Today, everybody would like to think they were anti-apartheid activists, but they were.
Yeah.
So, you see, our and again, someone's going to say Faisal Suliman's calling for a change of the madrasa syllabus. I am not. Clearly, there is the rules and all of that have to be taught. But what isn't coming through, Shafa, is values and active. Gosh, I did another interview before this, and clearly,
Rather say, okay, what is coming through, sir?
Yeah. So, what is not coming through, and we see it in mannerism, in the lack of ethics about small things. That even though we taught rules, and one would think that it is obvious that you need to be ethical if you're learning all the du'as to read before you sleep and before toilet and after toilet and all of that. We're not. What is coming through is not to become activists. You don't see our Muslim community generally even taking up Muslim causes, let alone about the environment, about general humanitarian causes. We just have to look at the silence and the apathy in South Africa related to what's going on in other parts of the Muslim world. Posting something on WhatsApp is the very, very, very least you can do. One just has to compare it with the passion behind sport, whichever sport there is, or the passion to follow movie stars and the stars and whatever. Because that is the narrative of what is going on. So I think you ask, where do we change? We need to start teaching more activism. I think we need to start teaching more ethics from our madrasas and from our Muslim schools, that you have to do things. And ironically, this is not imitating the West. This is what the Quran commands us. The Quran absolutely commands you to stand up for justice, even when it's against your friends and family, and so everyone knows this verses from Surah Nisa. The prophetic example, many years ago when I still used to do the radio station, Yawar Beg once said to me, he said, the du'as for the Battle of Badr were not made in Medina. They were made on the battlefield.
Exactly.
They were not. The Prophet did not sit in Medina and say, right, let's make dua, and we'll send the guys to the battlefield, and we'll sit and make dua.
Right.
He led from the front. He put stones into those wells to draw. It was proactive, strategic, and of course, in the Prophet's case, through wahi.
Right.
But it was proactive.
Exactly.
We are stuck to WhatsApp groups and to chatting. Now, how do you transition? I mean, that is where the focus needs to be.
Definitely.
It has to come from talking about doing in the members, in madrasa, on our groups. The whataboutism. At the moment, since the Ukraine war, Inayet, there's a lot of whataboutism. And we see, for example, let's use an example now of people in the West demonstrating pro-Iranian women want to remove the hijab.
Right.
Now, the question of the hijab is a religious, is a fiqh issue. There's no discussion. A woman has to be covered, all of that. So that we know, right? Whether it should be it should be compulsory in terms of a religious law or a secular law, like in Iran, maybe people will debate about. But those now, I have no doubt there are agitators, there are people behind this. There's, of course, whether one agrees with the Shiism or not, etc. There are people who want to overthrow Iran for other reasons. So the whole Middle East is one big playing field for war games.
Exactly. And
Right?
it's been for a long
So
time now.
there would be stokers and agitators, just like there were in Turkey. But there are other people out there who are looking at it, and they've been brainwashed or whatever, who are looking at it as a human rights thing, right? Rachel Corrie, who got ran over by an Israeli bulldozer, was not Muslim.
Exactly.
There are so many people at the moment, non-Muslims, volunteering in the refugee camps, etc.,
Exactly.
because they have an activist mindset.
Right.
They're looking at it not as religious law, they're looking at it as right and wrong, as the right thing to do.
Right.
We don't have this. We have it in theory. We have it, we know in the Quran clearly and in the Seerah, but we don't have it as a mindset, the right thing to do. Whatever it is, in business, in our personal lives, now, when do you transition that? Where does the transition come? That comes out from us to say the right thing to do is for us to be marching or to be having vigils, marches, social media activism. It doesn't exist in our community.
Oh, definitely. I think one of the biggest problems is we talk about keyboard warriors,
Yeah.
and that is exactly what we have become. And what I find also is we've actually lost the plot, because we've been in the comfort zone for far too long in this country. And I know, Mustafa, you and I have had this whole disagreement on the Hizb ut-Tahrir issue, but that is a matter for another discussion.
That's true.
But a few years ago, and this is the time when I was on CII, and I had somebody from Hizb ut-Tahrir, and we were talking about the freedoms that we enjoy in this country. And what that person told me, he says, don't be fooled. And he says, don't retreat into a comfort zone, because those freedoms can be taken away from you, which is very, very true. And when one looks at even recent developments, when one looks at, for instance, the announcement that was made about the U.S. embassy on the terror threat. Now, we've had a few of these in the country already. We're looking at some of the global dynamics that are playing out. India, for example.
Yes.
We see the Jewish lobby in South Africa, how they operate, our position on Palestine. And I know just a few days ago, the whole question surrounding the RSS infiltrating South Africa, what had happened in Leicester. So what I'm saying is, we can be in a comfort zone, but we also need to take lessons from what has happened in other parts around the world.
Definitely. That comfort zone mentality has to stop. As you said, that what happens is that it's now, and we are at this point, we're at this crossroads whereby we may very well be setting ourselves up as a community for a fall for those sort of privileges and freedoms that we enjoy to be restricted or curtailed going forward if, God forbid, something disastrous has to strike. And the thing is that, for example, this terror threat, I'll just give you an example. Okay, now it's turned out because there's a big LGBT parade taking place in Centon today. So they said, oh, Islamic, the IS in Africa or that's based in Mozambique or whatever, linked to Al-Shabaab is opposed to us because they're anti-LGBT. Are Muslims the only ones that are anti-LGBT? What about the Christians,
Exactly.
etc.?
Yeah.
Right? What about other faiths? That's one. Number two, this thing about the RSS. We saw what happened in Leicester last month. It was total provocation. It had nothing to do with a cricket match. That was just the narrative that was coming out by the media. It was a provocation, whereby Leicester, being one of the most dominant Muslim communities of Britain, right? There was provocation whereby these people were marching through, shouting slogans, whatever it was, trying to start a fight. Fortunately, the community, although yes, they were on guard, but they did not retaliate. Because if they retaliated, it would have been disaster,
Exactly.
and we know what the consequences were going to be like,
Right.
There is that imminent threat that can happen here to South Africa, right? There are operatives here in South Africa because they are trying to stir up, tensions here locally. They're importing nonsense from India into South Africa, right? They have to understand that here for 160 years, we lived as a community, be it Hindu, Muslim, Christian, in harmony. And we want to continue doing so, right? So we have that. Now, the thing is that you take these RSS operatives, for example, say they've been planning to, do something like what happened in Leicester. That is a terror threat. But, and maybe the US Embassy's got that and say there's a terror threat, but they're not telling what's a terror threat. But everybody's pointing at Muslims or anybody with a Muslim identity can come from white supremacists too, right? So that's sort of problem we're having. So we've been stuck in this and we need to get out of that comfort zone and we need strong leadership. We need activism. We need people to get into the political sphere, right? And that's very important. And our youngsters, they are lost. Our youth are lost. And very quick to post Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, name it, Twitter, what the latest TikTok, what they're doing. They can even use that influence and reach to say, listen, guys, we got a situation here. We need to rally together so we can, we can enter this, enter that. Like, take, for example, the riots, right? If you see how the South African government reacted to that, the parliament being on fire as a national key point, taking the terror threat lightly. Okay, Ramaphosa has hit back at the Americans to say, oh, why didn't you just tell us before making it public? That's all the nitty-gritty. Thing is that one sister, Lubna Nadvi, posted on Facebook that knowing that how the South African government handled the July riots issue,
Right.
nothing stops them from taking this as just one of those
Exactly.
issues,
Yes.
right? Until something disaster strikes, God forbid, and where they're coming on a knock on your door, Faisal's door, my door. Hey, you guys are part of this. And do we need that? No, we don't want that.
I agree. But also, I think, Faisal, just looking at us locally, and I think we're at a crossroads where we don't really know where we stand. If I look at, for example, look at it politically. Do we really have a political home in this country? Who do we align ourselves to? And I think, Mustafa, you've seen it over and over again on the group chats, where obviously a party like Al Jama obviously came under fire because they aligned themselves with the removal of the DA mayor in Johannesburg.
Right.
But that is just one example. Where do we actually find a political home in the absence of our non-involvement, when there is apathy, when we don't know where we stand? And, we're not getting any direction. And that is the reason why this becomes such a subject of debate. And you have this labeling and this name calling and in us and them scenario that's playing out.
There are different levels of this. So what we haven't reached or we don't have is a level of political maturity that says there are certain strategic issues that are beyond the party political lines as a community. So there isn't, I used to campaign for this, and now I've realized, especially with all of these splits within the Muslim community, there isn't a Muslim voting bloc, right? So that doesn't exist. Politically, culturally, socio-economically, race, different races that make up the Muslim community, and now which alim you follow. It seems to me we're reaching a stage whether you follow this particular alim group or that alim group is determining a lot, which is
100%.
not the case. Which shouldn't be the case.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, and unfortunately, certain ones that on the right are stoking these and exploiting these, you know. So we don't have that maturity. There isn't a block. Ideally, a Muslim should be voting for the party that is doing the right thing. In the past, morally and every other way, it used to be the freedom movements, whether the PAC or the ANC. Clearly, those movements, those political parties, because the PAC has now almost disappeared. But the ANC, I don't think one needs to say more about where the ANC is. So that leaves us with some of the other parties. Clearly, the foreign policy of the DA, and particularly it's. I don't think we can shy away from saying that the DA, at the level of its federal structures, etc., is an out-and-out Zionist
Exactly.
supporting
Yeah.
organization.
Yeah. Right.
And that is a stumbling block for many people. Whether strategically at the local council level, it would be better to vote for the DA because they're taking care of your suburbs, but at the national level, not, because that's where policy is formulated, is a moot point because, by putting them, by more and more putting the DA into power, you are giving them leverage at the national level as well. On the other hand, do you continue to not vote and then by not voting, allow small radical parties to come in, especially if I want to call them the right-wing black nationalist parties or black African black nationalist parties, who I don't think have a non-racialism project in mind. So by not voting, you then allowing them to punch much higher than their weight class, or do you then look at alternatives and look even in Mustafa's case? I imagine at the strategic level, Mr. Mashaba has to toe the line very carefully on the Palestine issue for
Right.
obvious reasons. But if they are able to do good, if they're able to get we're almost at the stage. Many of us used to be very upset with Muslims in the Western Cape all of these years for keeping the DA in power, because clearly the Muslims would have outvoted, right? The colors, the old nationalist supporters, would rather vote for the DA than the ANC.
Right.
But perhaps they saw earlier what we are seeing now.
Yes.
That the ANC is unable to govern, is
Right.
unable to fix roads and potholes and fix things like this.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, better the devil who at least looks after the area
Mm-hmm.
and worry about Palestine and everything later.
Right.
And I think this is the sad choice we are left with. So I would say, consider Action SA. You may strategically have to consider the DA in certain wards, maybe not at the national level. I think there are other parties that need to be looked at. I see some work being done by the Sun Party, unknown to many, but I've been seeing their flyers at least. Are they good ANC people? Absolutely, but they're in the minority at the moment. The party is a bit rudderless at the moment for obvious reasons. The sad reality is it's President Ramaphosa or worse. That's the sad reality of where the ANC is.
That is the reality.
It's him or worse. There's no him or
Exactly.
better.
If
right?
he's the best that we have at this point in
Yeah.
time, what is still to come?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's going to get worse with this process now in December.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of the RET are going to come back into key positions.
Right.
But now that it's stuck in there, it's not coming out.
Yeah. Maybe I need a change of identity.
Yeah, you need a change of
I
identity.
need a change
Yes.
of mindset. However, nothing stops us still organizing ourselves. Unfortunately, this division. The one thing I do want to say, and let the takfir on me roll on. I really think our young Muslim people need to tell that certain group of alims who are out there carrying on as if they're the only source of religious knowledge, and who are pronouncing takfir. There's about 4 or 5 of them, right, or groupings. We're not interested. Get lost. The other choice words, but get lost is about the best one I can think of, because I would like to see over 50 years what Majlis has actually done other than roll out takfirism. Show me structures they've built, communities they've helped, and others like that. This business of forwarding their messages and giving it attention must come to an end. I think it's time for the vast majority, and I also think the business community supporting them or assisting them need to say enough. Or those masajid that want to follow Majlis and those people want to follow, don't be so selective. Then don't send your children to school. Don't educate your daughters. Keep them, don't let them drive. Don't have radio, don't have WhatsApp, don't have cell phone. Because that is the other part. Don't let them play sport. Because that is what Majlis is. You can't say, you're selective. Yeah, Majlis got a point, But 98% of everything else he says you don't follow. Because whatever. In your businesses, follow Majlis's principles then. Don't keep any SANA-approved products. So I think it's time to isolate that lot so we can make progress. Because until we don't, I honestly will be stuck, right? And our roots are being taken away from us.
Exactly.
I want to give you a simple example. This guy, Andrew Tate, the misogynist, right-wing neocon,
Right.
suddenly has got Muslims wanting to follow him. Why? Is there no role model? Is there such an identity crisis in the UK that because he says two positive words about Islam, right, after maligning Islam for the past few years, suddenly Muslims want to follow an Andrew Tate? If he's converting, let's wait and see. Let's reserve our judgment and let's see it properly. But at the moment, does that mean there are so few positive role models and scholars in the UK that the Muslims want to go look at a misogynist like this? So I'm also saying similarly here, all of this, I mean, we've seen the growth of this LGBT within Muslims when it is clearly against the Sharia. So why is that happening? Do we not have enough structures? Is it not what, the values we are teaching and the ethics we are teaching? So I want to say, Inayet, for today, we'll just...
Next time, wear a name badge.
Yeah, no.
Definitely. I need to.
Forgive me for this. But anyway,
No.
so Inayet, what we want to say is that we have to start strategizing. And the bottom line of all of this, can I say to you, the few people who are volunteering are overwhelmed, don't have the energy and time because they're involved in so many other things. If the Muslim community wants to make progress, right, we need to have funding kept aside for this work, or organizing political structures, running educational campaigns. If you think, and of course, at SAMNET, we have a well-known charitable division, the Caring Sisters Network, that does charity. But I'm going to say to all of the donors, including our own, if you're spending 200,000 on a Urus and a Milad, take 10% and donate it to a structure that is involved in this. If you're having an istima, if you're having a Milad or any other, just take 5%. If you want to give for feeding and for wells and boreholes, take 10% of that donation and say, right, this is towards bursaries, this is towards organizing political structures, paid. Until we don't reach a stage where we are paying people to do this, and we think we're going to rely on people doing it part-time and volunteering, we are going to make no progress.
I agree.
Absolutely not.
Yes.
Just to
The best example, the best example is Dr. Imtiaz Suliman. If there were not those people who said, Imtiaz, stop practicing and do this full time, we'll take care of your financial needs, he would have been sitting in his medical practice, trying to earn a living, and gift of the givers would have been 2% of what it is.
I agree.
Just
I agree with
to,
you.
And we can use that for any other work.
Yes, but also, Mustafa,
just
I
to
think,
follow through.
yeah,
Sorry, before we carry on about what Faisal said, that the people must have this approach of looking at all political parties, right? I mean, although I wear an Action SA cap, but people must look at all political parties for the simple reason is that where they can make a difference. And the first challenge to every South African, Muslim or not, is to see how that party can deliver for you, right? Because that's what we need now, and everybody is crying for delivery, service delivery of every kind. Right now, you've seen in this lovely suburb of Morningside, Musgrave in Durban, right? You see in some streets they're doing road marking, but they put in the road paint over a little minor pothole or that kind of thing, right?
Right.
So people must approach all political parties. But as you said, a lot of people have lost trust with the ANC, right? And that's what's the reason why it's working so well for the DNK in the Western Cape is because they've seen something. They're happy with the service delivery they're getting, right? Or of a functioning society. Yeah, people will say, right, okay, you'll find that the townships are third world and your suburbs are first world. Yes, we have that all over. But you're looking at what the party can do for you. I mean, you take a party like the IFP, came 1994. Which non-African would have voted IFP? Really speaking, because they were so traditionalist, stuck in that sort of thing. But they have a party that's matured, and they're telling now the NC, they also realize they can't play second fiddle.
Yeah.
But the danger is the fascism with the nationalists and that radical RET cabal. You've seen the combination of the group in the ANC together with the EFF and others. That is a big danger. And as long as we allow that to happen, and when again something goes wrong, then we cry. The riots was a good impetus for people to wake up and say, listen, go to that ballot box and vote for any party. I'm just giving an example, but the NC, because the NC let us down. I'm not saying it for my party, but I'm saying that the thing is get people to go to the ballot box.
Right.
How many people went?
I agree.
Right?
Yeah.
And then the thing is that the other thing that's very important is that this utopia and this mindset of Muslim privilege here in South Africa must stop. For example, in January last year, there was a major altercation at the Cabana Beach lawns, Juma Salah time. Right? Okay, it was at the height of COVID. It was in the midst of the second wave, right? Or was it January? Anyway, the fact remains that there was a big problem. They were having Juma Salah. They were given a certain time by the management to have the Salah between, say, 12:30 and 1, right? Because they've got other activities. At 1 o'clock, apparently, they started the other activities, right? There was music blasting. You must know it's a private property. It's not a public space, not a park. It's a private property. They gave you the privilege. The music was going, the person who decided to do the Jummah went along with his bayan and khutbah, then decided to start Salah, and then the music came on. And that was overpowering the sound of the Salah. There was a big fight about it. People wanted to attack the manager, and it was all over social media, right? Oh, but they must allow us to pray our Salah. Nobody said no, they mustn't allow you to play your Salah. But remember something, we're in a private property space. So we have to follow certain rules. We're not on the street or on a public field or in a public park, right? Further than that, why people can't get out of their comfort zones, jump in the car and go to the nearest masajid. The area is full of masajid and musallas.
Definitely.
Right?
Yeah.
But then we resign ourselves to the Muslim privilege. Oh yeah, we are so many, we dominate the resort at this time of the year, so we must have our way. That Muslim privilege mindset must stop, because people think we are in a utopia, especially the likes of what Faisal mentioned. We're in this utopia, and we're living in this kuffar society, but we are a minority. That's why I had my reservations about Hizb ut-Tahrir. For the simple reason is that in a non-Muslim dominant society where you're a minority, yes, to aspire for the Khilafah, we all want that. But to put posters up there, but the first simple reason is that people will get it, take the message the wrong way, and they will get radicalized, and then it comes back to haunt you. But then, as you said, we can talk about that on another time. I'm just giving you a comparison to how it is over here.
Also, I think, when you're speaking about privilege also, and this whole thing about being judgmental, and it wasn't long ago, I seen one of the debates on the group questioning the Palestinians, questioning the Iman. Now, people, you've got your Tabligh Jamaats that go to Palestine, but when you come back and then you comment on the people, and he says, you know what?
They're very far from Deen.
Actually far from Deen. Some actually says that this is a punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the Palestinians. Yet people tend to forget, Faisal, that these are people that have been chosen to protect Masjid al-Aqsa. There is no other.
Beginning of our discussion, I said ethics are not being taught in our madrasas. You would think that it is obvious, but it is not. So, and not only there, we see it. You have to sometimes talk to non-Muslim businessmen, and they will tell you, we've done business with this guy. so concerned about the outside, well, the inside must be what reflects Islam. And then whether it's working space, whether it's, as Mustafa mentioned, all of these things, you do your religion. Let Maulana Patel used to always say, doing something wrong, make sure you do not look like a Muslim.
You know,
it's
Right?
okay. Exactly.
And we are
Oh,
the
yes,
exact
yes, yes.
opposite.
you know,
Our humanity. Now we have sometimes been so trapped into religious rituals or religiosity that we've lost our humanity. Simple courtesy. You know, you just have to look now on Diwali, the sort of stuff that came out that it is not permissible. Why we need 500 fatwas to tell us what is common sense? We are reaching a stage where, we want a fatwa for common sense things.
But you talking of Diwali, and look, recently, Salam Media, we hosted Nadima Noor from out of Afghanistan, and she was our guest.
yes.
And there was just so much going
Oh,
on.
yes, of
And
course.
some woman that is sitting in the comfort of her home, possibly in hijab, but talking about her being a feminist. People
keyboard
don't even
warriors.
realize that what is actually taking place in
Exactly.
Afghanistan. They don't see the offense that has got this Sheikh, I think Yunus, that he's coming through to South Africa shortly as well. Same comments, talking about these feminists coming in, and these are people that are here to destroy your
That is
Aqidah.
why
All these
I'm
things are
saying
playing
when
out.
people see alims nitpicking and criticizing, and whether it's Yasmin Mujahid, whether it's all of these people, those who are saying don't go listen, don't go attend a talk by some of the Arabs, the Egyptian scholars who are here, because the beard isn't long enough and all of this. I'm saying enough of that.
Faisal,
No,
I know,
and start
obviously,
concentrating
time.
on
I know you've
structure.
got time. Time constraints as well because you need to get to your practice. Just on the question of media, because I know you tried this initiative in the past where you tried to bring media together, and Muslim media is featuring prominently in the country. In fact, depends now, who you're listening to or which media you follow. But media has got a huge role. It's got a massive role to play in terms of conscientizing the Muslim Ummah. And just looking at how media has evolved over a period of time, and have we achieved, or is there still a lot more that we need to do?
Oh no, absolutely. We need a lot more, both within the Muslim community and clearly without. One of the reasons I might as well fund now is the fact that specifically SAMNET started this media, journalism, political science bursary program for that exact reason, that we produce people, that can take on the challenge. But Inayet, clearly the use of voice notes and lectures on social media is become very prominent, often toxic. Um, and again, our appeal to people to say, you know, ulama bodies are split on photographs. There is name calling and derogatory names being used on senior alims over photographs. Now, I am not saying that those who are opposed to it have to change. They're entitled to their beliefs. But does it need to reach a level? So if the alims are setting the standards, then Apa that's sitting at home in hijab, who's been conditioned that this is the right way, and a woman in Palestine who's wearing a jeans and top has got no iman, and therefore, as you say, and we've heard it often, we've had senior Molana say, right? When people were demonstrating against Woolworths, there were senior alims calling them monkeys. If you during the Woolworths,
And I was in those
boycott,
posters, so
right?
maybe I'm one of them too.
So is that now when you're setting the standard of an alim doing it, then when the people at the bottom start becoming so self-righteous that someone you don't know, whose lives we couldn't live in for half an hour in Afghanistan or Syria or Yemen or Palestine, we won't be able to live for half an hour under the hardships they live to. Do you have the temerity to start talking about their iman and where they're going, hell or heaven, when clearly we don't know when at the time of our death we'll be going with the shahada or not? So That's why I'm saying ignore. It's time we ignore those people. I would have liked to say it would be good as I said, if we reach a stage of political maturity where we said, okay, there are differences on these issues, but on political strategy, on getting together at a communal level about things outside, on the RSS, there should be cooperation. We don't have that maturity yet. We not certainly at the ulama level. I'm not saying the ulama are immature. I'm saying the level of cooperation to look beyond that doesn't exist. And we see this whole fight going down to family levels. At the rate it's going, there's going to be a stage where if you follow one alim body and that other guy follows another alim body, you're not going to give your son or daughter to that family. We're going to go backwards to when it was Memon Sulti Kokni.
Yeah, it's happening
but
already.
It's going to become a fake thing.
It's becoming it's a problem.
Instead of taking on the challenges we have at the moment, LGBT, political isolation, financial challenges, all of these things, we're regressing to that. We haven't even tackled the race issue of black Muslims, foreign Muslims, the Somalians, the Pakistanis, all of this. We're not even at that level of integration. So it can only start by us saying, ignore. Don't get involved in moon sighting issues, don't get involved in photography issues, all of these fights between the alims, put it aside, start looking out for the right thing to do, start looking out for how you can protect. 98% of us are not emigrating. We're not semi-migrating to the Cape and we're not emigrating anywhere else. We are here. We are here and we have to make it work because our children are going to be here.
You're right.
And it can only, and now I just want to add, with the coalition politics that is going to come, small parties, even those without huge numbers, are going to be, we saw it we see it in this very municipality. The coalition that is keeping the ANC together is by 2 and 3 seats in power.
The deputy mayor is the only seat for his party.
Yes.
We see the circus going on in Johannesburg at the moment.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
In that municipality and the mayor and all the court cases going to go on and challenges, etc. There is a space for well-organized. So although there is no Muslim bloc, I want to venture even one further. If the Tabligh Jamaat followers feel there is no home for them in the other parties, if they can muster 50,000 votes, form your own party,
You're right.
and get your Tabligh Jamaat followers to vote 40,000 voters for a national seat and go vote for small councillors and do the Islamic duty and go and serve.
They can do that, and it's doable.
They are so well organized.
But you see, the other problem is we are very inwardly focused community. And this
even
is,
if they are in
I know.
if the Tabligh Jamaat says, we won't vote for anyone
No,
else
but
because
why I'm saying this, Faisal, is recently we had our president visited Saudi Arabia. What was the first thing that came out? Increase the Hajj quota. That was the first thing. Yet, I had Tahir Maepa, and he came on and he addressed a number of issues. He says, what should the president be talking about? He should be talking about talking to Saudi Arabia about human rights issues, about there are major issues at this point in time. But again, that's why I say we inwardly focus. What is of interest to us?
Yes. Your question you asked me, the role of Muslim media is to have that type of interviews to show people an alternative than just, unfortunately, what they are hearing from certain alims, whether in the mimbar or on voice recordings or on Bilal receivers, etc. There's just one thing coming out, and I do not downplay the need to remind Muslims about the fard and all the haram things. Absolutely, there's a space for that. But it cannot be the sole focus. Now, the role of Muslim media to bring those alternative thoughts, those alternative ideas, absolutely crucial. And therefore, we, guys like yourself and the other balanced radio stations need to be empowered, need to be supported. Right? If those two Islamic TV channels on the DSTV platform can take up those cudgels, we need to encourage them as well. Forget the small things. Those fights over photographs, haram, halal. If you're not opposed to photographs, just don't take it. Don't get involved in this. But the other sense of it is where you have to say we can move. We can start doing. And again, I would say the same thing that I said about the Tabligh Jamaat. If the Sunni Jamiatul Ulama can organize the urasas, like these people could organize the Shab Guzaris, the Istimas, to say, here's our party. And I'll tell you, I want to give a very good example where it worked. NFP had a Muslim parliamentarian, partly supported by the Sunni Jamiatul Ulama here, who helped to Mansour.
Yes, yes.
Mansour took up so many Islamic Muslim issues using his platform.
100%.
He did. He
And
did.
the
No,
NFP, now he'll
definitely.
be out
And we
now.
need to give him credit for that.
No,
Yes.
absolutely.
yes, definitely.
Yes.
So, if Mansour could do it through the platform of the NFP, Sunni Jamiat, if you don't think there's a home for you in any other party, then you can, through all these organizations, I mean, the Urus's, the Jamaats, the Shubha, are organizing structures. Use those structures. Pick your own candidate.
Take like Dr. Imran Kika, being a DA member, MPL, based in Newcastle, right? Shadow MEC for health. He took up the Kashmir issue.
Yeah.
And now he's the chief. He took up the Kashmiri issue in August. Right? He
Yes.
got a lot of flack for it. So, like that, what Faisal says, that these people who are there can make some difference.
Yeah.
And we need to grow on that.
No, we need to. Look, I know Faisal, time is of the essence. It's what, 4 minutes past 9 already. I don't know how much time you've got, Faisal.
I can probably spare another 5 minutes.
Another 5 minutes or so. Okay, fine. Yeah, and maybe we should just start wrapping up and also looking at where to from now. I mean, we've just unpacked so much in the last few minutes, and perhaps Mustafa, what would you like to see happening?
Well, the first thing I want to see is the youth in because they lost. They must understand that we are here. We're not running anyway. We're not running anyway. As Faisal said, we're not semi-grating. We're not immigrating. So, in order that it's your future, you guys have to wake up and join the political sphere, right? Activism sphere. Be more and being that they are so social media conscious and savvy, they can use it to their advantage. So our youth must go into those opportunities, and this is the one. But they need the direction. They need leadership. So that also plays an important role. So leadership, like for example, what SAMNET would do, and other organizations said, listen, Salam Media is there as a media platform to say, listen, our youth need to get into political parties. As I said, don't restrict it to one. We need to get everywhere, right? Obviously, you have to see if they can work for you. You're not going to go and join, for example, ATM, right? Because just giving an example, right?
But you're
going to join the players there that can make the difference. So that's the first step. The other thing is that we need to, all these people that are causing the trouble and the fitna and coming over divisive issues, we need to go beyond it, look beyond it.
Every
That's
forum,
right.
Inayet,
Look at that.
I have one word for you.
Yes.
Every forum.
Yeah.
An example of a community who decided let's put money in a pot, start developing technical colleges, start hiring good lawyers to take up the causes the right way, start organizing our community. Clearly, we may agree with their politics, right? But in terms of an example, listen, Sage Board and other communities have shown us
And they've taken some high-profile cases.
It is an embarrassment to government that the Senzo Mewia family have to go to every forum to
Exactly.
Yes.
than the NPA.
Yeah.
But my point is,
If we look at an
no
organization,
need to invent the wheel.
Outa, for instance.
absolutely.
Within
Today
our
we know
community,
e-tolls are scrapped. But why?
You see, but this is an activist mindset.
Yes.
This is what I'm saying we do not have within the. There's one thing I'd like to say, and I want to comment, Uksa, that they have by and large avoided the tit for tat spat with the people who call them all sorts of things, right? And we've seen a more proactive stance going to meet the embassies, issuing statements on national issues and national issues. And I think that must be commended. I think they must be supported. I think people should start supporting moderate scholars, moderate theologians who are not. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, but I think, apart from the scholars, but I think what's happening is you need the scholarly and the non-scholarly fraternity to come together.
You need a combination.
You need a combination of two.
Definitely.
And this is what I think we are lacking in this country.
We have to. There are certain things that the ulama bodies will not be able to do, and we must carry on doing. We know the sort of rumblings you will get, and I think we may just ignore those and start to develop an activist mindset. If it's not going to be taught in the Darul Ulum, if it's not going to be taught in the madrasas, then that has used platforms like this, that has used other social engagements, and as Mustafa mentioned, social media and our homes, etc., to start to tell our children and our young people, and again, the Muslim schools have roles, assemblies, all of this, that is not enough just to talk. We are a community of action. And this is not imitating, again, no, this is a kuffar thing, demonstrating. If you feel so strongly you want women in a march, those people who feel that way, why don't you do a men-only march to the Israeli embassy? Go do a men-only thing.
Yeah.
But do not then pick on anybody else who wants to do it.
Yeah.
You don't want to do, fine. We have a habit, and again, I don't want to what about that we won't do, but we won't let anyone else do. So I'm saying that those people, ignore them. Those who don't do, but want to criticize those who do. But the person who don't have skin in the game can sit down and make lots of comments. When you got you're not risking your name or your potential visa or anything else. You can sit down and criticize. What about this? What about the PLO? What about this? What about that? Put skin in the game. Put your name on a piece of paper or a petition or endorse a letter. Then, when you got skin in the game, then see how it changes your perspective.
Well, Faisal, Mustafa, I must say, it's been most absorbing. In fact, such a relaxed atmosphere actually, and that we're able to have this chat actually. And yes, we need to do more
we
of this.
Haven't really had time to really go into depth. There's a lot that can be done. I would say, probably a parting word is funding. To pay people to do the right thing, lawyers, journalists, etc. If you feel it doesn't have to be SAMNET, it doesn't have to be any other organization, put funds together,
And make
start
it happen.
your own. Ironically, we got hundreds, if you count all the little areas doing relief work. We only have one or two organizations doing proactive media work, where there's space for 500.
And this is where the focus needs to be. I agree.
Absolutely.
Well, Jazakallah to both of you, really. I know you've got to rush off to work as well, Mustafa.
Jazakallah, Inayet.
Jazakallah to both of you, really. It's been wonderful, man. It's been an absolute
it's a nice
And
pleasure.
just as a parting message to the listeners there that listen, we are here in South Africa. This is our home. You can make the difference. It's entirely up to you. We need to get out of that slumber, that comfort zone, and we need to make it happen.
I won't say that other name again. Inayet.
Oh, finally you got it right. Jazakallah.
Finally.
Jazakallah to both of you, really. And I must say I enjoyed the cappuccino, Mustafa.
Okay, you're
Jazakallah for
welcome.
that.
We can see why
Well,
Jersey is so often.
To our viewers, our listeners, a very relaxed atmosphere, wonderful chat, and this is just scratching, I think, the tip of the iceberg. There's just so much more we need to unpack. But for now, for myself and a wonderful team out here in the gardens as well, Ponti, Shamshir is here, Abdul Salam is here, Ibrahim Estey, and also Abrar
we
is
live
here.
at the Florida Field
Yes,
in Morningside, Durban.
Wow, there we go. Okay. Well, to all of you, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam.